Greetings, I'm back again. Part two. I hope those who watched the first part of this like what you see, like what you hear. Just don't like it and hear it, but you know, abide by it. All right, let's continue on. As you know, we studied about Aether, Luminiferous Aether. Okay, as we can see, Aether, so far as what we've been talking about, it says that Aether is related to incinerate or intrinsic to burn, to shine, related to the name Ethiopia or Ethiopia, meaning people are burnt with a burnt black visage. So it's very important. You know, just because you have this black visage doesn't mean anything, because you must go back to the origin where Aether originated, according to a time you can remember it. And we know in law, time immemorial is 1189. So it says here, where's it at? According to ancient and medieval science. All right. So they said, according to ancient and medieval science. So they validate medieval science will qualify ancient, and ancient will qualify the medieval science. That's why we say time immemorial. Time immemorial involves the ancient, because there was no difference in the time of the ancient and the medieval age as a result to the people, their existence, their what they call concerning their anthropology, their culture, etc. It was the same, because they make reference to medieval science. They highlighted medieval science. Let's just click that to get a verification of a true meaning, what they mean by medieval science, if they give us one. Right here. While the Byzantine Empire still had learning centers such as Constantinople, Alexandria, and Antioch, Western Europe knowledge was concentrated in monasteries until the development of the medieval universities in the 12th century. You know, the monasteries go to the Benedictine monasteries created by who? King Edward the Peaceful, which is verified by St. Dustin. All right. All the other stuff that goes back to other countries and empires that ruled has no reference to us here in this modern day. Because we know the modern day physics evolved from the medieval days dealing with the understanding of physics, which we just proved, which was actually created and taught in the medieval universities. And we know the medieval universities, two of the most qualifying universities in medieval was Oxford and Cambridge. They were built by Henry III, all right, the King of England. Everybody needs to research that. All right, so when you're dealing with the ethers of medieval age, in regards to ether, we know it has to deal with us. All right, has to deal with us. We was that fifth element. All right, living on that terrestrial sphere. All right, subject to the laws of the Luminiferous ether, which was promulgated for all things to exist. All right, we know that that goes back to that they said that 0 point energy. You know what I'm saying? So we must remember our state when we were in the state of 0 point energy, because energy is the power source. All right, it's the power source. All right, where that motion comes into play. This in turn goes to what we call light. Light or visible light is electromagnetic radiation, i.e. electromagnetic waves that can perceived by the human eye. So what you see with your physical eyes is based off what they call light, which is in actuality based off the true definition, electromagnetic radiation that you perceive with the human eye based off the images that you upload based off your viewing. All right. In physics, the term light may refer more broadly to electromagnetic radiation of any wavelength, whether visible or not. Okay, whether visible or not. In this sense, gamma rays, X-rays, microwaves, radio waves are also light. The primary properties of light are intensity, propagation, direction, frequency, or wavelength, spectrum, or polarization. Its speed and vacuum. You hear that? Light travels in a vacuum according to the transmission medium in regards to the information that's being relayed by what we call signals and waves, i.e. waves. And we know that the understanding of those waves that come from ether comes from the understanding of the elements of ether. And we know that that would refer to burning or incineration. All right. And that burning incineration, it goes back to those who are being known as Ethiopians. All right. But understand this is all plays a part. Like all types of electromagnetic radiation, visible light propagates by massless elementary particles called photons that represent the quanta of electromagnetic field and can be analyzed as both waves and particles. The study of light, known as optics, is an important research area in modern physics. You know what I'm saying? So when you're dealing with light, which we perceive based on what we view, it's nothing more than the origin where light comes from, which is electromagnetic radiation. All right, ether. Ether is at this level. When you see a rainbow, i.e. the bridge, i.e. the Bifrost, you got gamma rays on down to what they call radio waves. All right, they all represent a different frequency based off the speed. All right, and velocity. Velocity means speed. So we know what light is. Okay, so we know light, once again, is an electromagnetic radiation that can be perceived by the human eye. That brings us here. Melanin. I.e. ether, right? Ether theories says it means a dark or black facade. All right, a dark or black facade. So now we're looking at melanin. Melanin, ancient Greek, melas, black, dark, is a broad term for a group of natural pigments found in most organisms. The melanin pigment are produced and is specialized at a group known as melanocytes. All right, melanocytes. Melanocytes. Since the action spectrum of sunburn and melanogenesis are virtually identical, they are assumed to be introduced by the same mechanism. You hear that? The agreement of the action spectrum with the absorption spectrum of DNA points towards the formation of cyclobutane, pyrimidine dimers, and direct DNA damage to those who don't have the ability to absorb, not absorb sunlight, but to be able to, absorb sunlight. Because to absorb sunlight, ultraviolet rays, it either can harm you or hurt you. Our skin, our melanin has been built up a defense system for us to be able to withstand the UV rays of the sunlight, because the origin of your existence comes from those UV rays, where we know it comes from the ether. And we know sunlight is a medium for information to travel through. You know what I'm saying? And that medium to travel through, which was originated with ether, means to burn or to incinerate. So in order to burn or incinerate, for you to shine from your lower state back to your higher state, you must have knowledge of self. Why? Because knowledge of self of this understanding denotes to mental transfer or mental uploading. All right? Mental transfer, mental uploading based off light. And light is what you see. Whatever you see with your eyes, you receive it and then you upload it. All right, you try to make sense of what it is that you see, but you know that light is really confusing light, because it's nothing more to do vibrations or frequencies or waves or signals. Okay, it's not really what you see. You're only seeing it based off something outside of yourself. Look at it from something within yourself, and then within that self, you must go into your cellular structure, your cell lineage, because the light is within that. All right, as well. So we know that ether, going back here, according to medieval science, once again, is known as the fifth element, and the material that fills the regions of the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere. So this ether that we're composed of, based on what they say about mythology, all right, which means to burn and incinerate. In order for you to be in that state of ether, then you must burn this facade of darkness and blackness, which is based off the melanin that we can see with our hands, which we're composed of. And it says melanin is composed, melanocyte is synonymous with sunburn. Once again, it says melanocyte is synonymous with sunburn. We don't get sunburn, right? Why? Because from the original, melanogenesis, we were given that protection from the very beginning. All right, the very beginning. We just lost the understanding of that very beginning. That very beginning was the knowledge of your noble family. That noble family. This understanding has been carried on throughout time immemorial. All right, we must understand this. It's not as hard as they making it seem. All right, so once again, oh man, why did I do that? All right. Let's go back to 0. So what is A worm. What is a wormhole? Let's talk about this. No, before we do that, I want to go back to this commercial. Oh, I think I erased it. But those who viewed the first part of this, it talked about the Keebler elves. And the cookie that they made was called fudge. Right? It was called fudge. Now look at the surname Fudge. Elder Fudge. Right? That's what it said. Elder Fudge. Okay, let me see. Fudge. All right. Name comes somewhere. That's a name that the elves gave to us in the commercial. Fudge is an ancient Norman name that arrived in England after the Norman conquest in 1066. The name Fudge comes from the Germanic personal name Folker, and is composed of the elements folk, which means people, and Hari, which means army, i.e. God's army, right? Because we know folk means kindred. And we know folk the fifth was the father Godfrey the fifth caravan Jew, where I descend down from, right? But somehow we're not a part of our father's house as a result of what we've seen in the commercial by us being classified as dark fudge, which is, as you see in the cookie, chocolate or dark or black. The surname Fudge was first time found in Lincolnshire and Derbyshire, where they were granted land about the time of William the Conqueror. Historically, the Folkers were known as the champions of Burgundy, and recordings were found in the name of spelled Folkshire in Normandy. The name could have also derived from the Anglo-Saxon word Folger. In other words, a follower and attendant, a free man who did not have a house of his own. So you see why they call us, we don't now have a house of our own, because our house has been taken from us. Right, has been taken from us. Let's find out why. Through that electromagnetic frequency being shut off, being cut. All right, being cut. We know that light, once again, light is, or visible light is the electromagnetic radiation that can be perceived by human beings. All right. It also said, in physics, the term light may refer to broadly to electromagnetic radiations of wavelength, whether visible or not. In this sense, gamma rays and X-rays, microwaves, and radio waves are also light. The primary properties of light are intensity, propagation, direction, frequency, or wavelength, spectrum, and polarization. Its speed and vacuum is one of the fundamental constants of nature. You hear that? The speed of vacuum. We know vacuum means absent of body, means absent of matter, i.e. 0 point energy. All right. Why? Because it's subject to what we call a speed of vacuum. And it said also, it said L waves are able to travel around the curvature of the Earth, and the curvature of the Earth is based upon gravity. All right. As we've seen in what we call general relativity theory, contrast to special relativity theory, which are actually more than the same. Because on our viewpoint, in regards to gravity, gravity is determined by mass and velocity. All right, mass and velocity. Like if you were at the top of the building and you was to free fall off the top of the building, you were subject to gravity, as well if somebody on the top of the building standing next to you dropped a feather, right, off the building. If y'all fell off if you and the feather dropped off the building, and we know that the word father means feather stone. When you drop off the point from A to B, and B will be the point of gravity, or i.e. coming in contact with another force, result ending will be is that as a result of the mass that you fell from and the velocity that your speed that you're coming at in lieu of that collapsed matter will be detrimental to matter, all right, versus the density of a feather, and based off the velocity and speed that it has when it comes in contact with another force, all right, which we can see matter. As a result of the density, the impact of that matter will not be as bad as that of more of density, or i.e. more matter. All right. So we must understand that because of our consciousness and the awareness of who we are. Because as the mental upload or the mental transfer of our state, the body changes along with that. Right? Your composition changes along with that. But just because your body changes and the composition changes as a result of the laws of physics, the laws of physics, according to the origin that created you, must be understood, as well as the laws of physics created by everything that created everything else on this planet. They may manifest it, known as the what we call first, second, and third density, i.e. in third density. Okay, this is what we call image. We know when we see through what we call light. We know light itself is finite. It's just a transmission medium through a vacuum to transfer information that derives from the ether. And we know the ether is that ability to be able to give signals and waves, i.e. L waves, which is nothing more than electromagnetism, the ability to be able to repel or attract. So you have the ability to repel this information or attract this information. It's all up to you. But whatever it is that you attract creates an image based off your visualization, all right? An image is a visualization representation of something. An image can be a two-dimensional, i.e. 2D representation, such as a drawing, painting, or a photograph, or a three-dimensional object, such as a carving or a sculpture. Any image may be displayed through other media, including projection on a surface, activation of electronic signal, or a digital display. Two-dimensional images can be still or animated. Still images can usually be produced through mechanical means, such as photography, printmaking, or photocopy. Sometimes three-dimensional images may also be animated, capable of passive and active motion. You hear this? The term has technical meanings in some fields and context of signal processing. An image is a distributed amplitude of colors. And optical, the term image may refer to specifically to a 2D image. All right. Contrast to a mental image. A mental image exists in an individual's mind. Right? The mind ain't attached to your body. We call that autobiological memory. That's what we call it here at the English Church. Biological memory, or engrams. Look at the word engrams. A mental engram or mental image through autobiological memory exists in the individual mind as something one remembers or imagines. The subject of an image needs not to be real. It may be an abstract concept such as a graph, function, or imaginary entity. For an image to be understood, however, there must be a way of conveying that mental image through the word or visual production of the individual subject. You hear that? That's light. That's light, y'all. Telecommunication, y'all. Transmission medium, y'all. Y'all need to understand. Let's go here. So what is space and time? Let's understand this. This is called fourth dimension, or what we call the tesseract. We're in the third dimensional. The fourth dimensional is next. That's space and time collapsing, the distance closing, all right, as a result of the rotation, speed, and velocity. The distance is closing. So if the distance is closing based off a bigger object has a more speed, and the gravitational pull becomes that more dominant over the object based off the distance and speed that it's rotating. Just like if a tornado is spinning, whatever's caught in the distance of that tornado as it closes the space between A and B, it results in a collapse. All right, what happens when the tornado hits the house? The house collapses. In physics, space and time is a mathematical model that fuses the three-dimensional of space and the one dimension of time into a single four-dimensional continuum. Space-time diagrams are useful in visualizing an understanding realistic effect, such as how different observers perceive where and when events occur. So you are the observer. You are the spectators of what events are taking place and whether they affect you or harm you. All right. In 1908, Hermann Minkowski presented a geometric interpretation of special relativity that fused time in the three spatial dimensions of space into a single fourth-dimensional continuum, now known as Minkowski space. This interpretation proved vital to the general theory of relativity, i.e., the law dealing with gravity, wherein space-time is curved, i.e., curvature of the Earth, all right, i.e., gravity, by mass and energy going to a 0-point energy, i.e., E equal mc squared. Energy is equal matter constant speed of light. That's called by way of a result in what we call a vacuum. All right, that's called a vacuum. That's the wormhole. As you can see, you see Earth, right? A globe, a sphere. And we know space is full of ether, and ether is light. We know that everything that exists in our universe swims in that fluid ether, all right, which is absent of matter, i.e., 0-point energy, all right? And anything that is absorbed as a result of its mass to a gravitational pull, of a stronger gravitational pull, then it's subject to what we call vacuum, without matter. So if Earth is moving from a three-dimensional to fourth-dimensional, and that means as Earth's density is going to change. You see it happening now. The water cannot maintain its boundaries. All the elements cannot maintain their boundaries now. You're the only one that don't understand this, of what's going on. That goes back to what we just talked about in the first video. Quantum fluctuation. Quantum physics, quantum fluctuation, known as vacuum. You see that? It deals with gravity. All right. Quantum physics, i.e., general relativity theory, is a result of what we call special relativity theory, dealing with the 0-point energy. All right, 0-point energy equivalence to matter. All right, because we know the equivalence of antimatter is matter. All right, the antimatter is contrast to matter, because you know, in order to get the antimatter, all space must be removed from that which was existing in that space, which is called matter. Right? If anything composed of matter has density now, some form of density. which is subject to laws, what we call quantum physics, quantum fluctuation, which is subject to vacuum. Because as soon as you jump up so if you're on one side of the seesaw and somebody or a trampoline and you jump up, the vacuum is gravity. It pulls you back down, right? It pulls you back down. It says here in quantum physics, quantum fluctuation, also known as vacuum state fluctuation, is a temporary random change in the amount of energy and a point in space. All right, a point in space. We occupy space and time. We as human beings on this plane are three-dimensional, occupy space and time. We're subject to what we call quantum fluctuation as a result of the vacuum. We know vacuum is a result of what we call removal of that space and that time, which is called E equals mc squared. Energy E is constant to matter, constant to the speed of light. Because we know light is information. And if you don't have that information in regards to light, which comes from what we call the transmission medium, the ability to be able to send signals to one person to another or one thing to another. Because just like we're being informed, all other light forms are being informed. As you can see, E equals mc squared. Light travels through what they call a vacuum. Light travels through what they call a vacuum, i.e., a black hole, i.e., a wormhole. The only way you need that is we have the constant velocity, speed. All right, speed. Let's go. Energy. Okay, energy. In physics, energy is the quantitative property that is transferred to a body or to a physical system recognizable in the perform of work and in the form of heat and light. Energy is a conserved quantity the law of conservation of energy states that energy can be converted into form, but not created or destroyed. The unit measured for energy is the International System of Units, SI is the joule, RAJ. Common forms of energy includes kinetic energy, all right? Kinetic energy is what we call electromagnetism, the ability to attract and repel. Of a moving object, the potential energy stored by an object, for instance, due to the position in a field, i.e. electromagnetic field. The elastic energy stored in the solid object, chemical energy associated with the chemical reaction, the radiant energy carried by the electromagnetism radiation, i.e. the transmission medium, and the internal energy contained with the thermodynamic system. All living organisms can constantly take and release energy. Hence, the Black Panther. All the energy that he absorbed was able to be released. All right, you see that. You see what kind of suit he had on, right? Due to the mass energy equivalence, an object that has mass when stationary, i.e. rest, mass, also has the equivalent amount of energy whose form is called rest energy, antimatter. And any additional energy of any form required by the object above that rest energy will increase the object total mass just as an increase in the total energy. So whatever energy it takes on, it can store it and receive it and get back out. All right, mass equivalent energy, i.e. 0-point energy. In physics, as I said, mass energy equivalence is the relationship between mass and energy. It's a system of rest frame, so no matter you do nothing or not, it makes no difference. What's going to happen is going to happen. Whether you're ready or not, whether you prepare for it or not, it's going to happen. Whether two quantities differ only by a multiplicated constant in a unit of measurement, i.e. what they call vacuum. We know vacuum is removal of matter from space. And you remove matter from space, that's that nothing that God said he created you from, right? The planet swimming at nothingness, and that nothingness before it became nothing, what we call ether or luminiferous ether, all right? Let's move on. Dark matter. Dark matter is a hypothetical form of matter thought to be the predominant type of matter in the universe. It is called dark because it does not appear to interact with the electromagnetic field, which means it does not absorb, reflect, or emit electromagnetic radiation. And it is therefore difficult to detect. Its existence is implied by various astrophysical observations, which cannot be explained by general relativity, i.e., gravity, unless more matter is present than can be seen. Evidence for dark matter comes from many different angles, such as galaxy dynamics and formation, gravitational lensing, and cosmic microwave background, along with astronomical observations of the observable universe, current structures, the formation and evolution of galaxies, making local locations during galactic collisions, and the motives of galaxies with galactic clusters. And standard Lamb, the CDM model of a cosmology, the mass energy content of the universe is 5% ordinary matter. Hear that? 5% ordinary matter and 26.8% dark matter, and 62.8% of form of energy known as dark energy. All right, you got dark matter and dark energy. So what is this dark energy? Let's reveal that. Okay. Bear with me, I got this thing on my screen. All right. Let's see. The exact nature of dark energy remains a mystery. All right. And explanations abound. The main candidates are a cosmological constant, representing a constant energy density, filling space homogeneously, and scalar fields, dynamic quantities having energy density that vary in time and space, such as quintessence or moduli. You hear that? Quintessence or moduli, that's known as what we call the fifth element. Ether, a cosmological constant which remains constant across time and space, i.e., that fluid. The cosmological constant in constant term that can be added to Einstein's field equation of general relativity, i.e., dealing with gravity, i.e., wormhole, i.e., space and time, if considered as a source time and field equation, it can be viewed as an equivalent to mass of empty space. You hear that? The mass of empty space, which conceptually could be either positive or negative, or vacuum energy, i.e., what they call luminiferous ether, because vacuum energy is void of space, i.e., 0 point energy. E equals mc squared. I know what I'm talking about. As I said, under the theories, zero-point energy evolved from historical ideas about vacuum. We know vacuum means absent of the body. To be absent of the body, to be present with the creator. All right. To Aristotle, the vacuum was to empty, i.e., the space independent of body. All right. So if you enter the space independent of body, i.e., matter, then there must be what we call antimatter. Let's do antimatter before I move on. Antimatter is not the same as earth, fire, air, and water. Not the same. Okay. In modern physics, everyone should know this, because if you don't know it, then there's no mental transfer of uploading to your true body. All right, because your true body needs feeding, it needs nourishment, it needs to grow. You know what I'm saying? It needs to grow. Our plant already has in it from the seed what it's supposed to be. But you ain't gonna grow into no plant, is you? You ain't gonna grow into no dog, is you? You ain't gonna grow into no cat, is you? You ain't gonna just be out there in the spook, just out there by yourself, is you? We all need to ask ourselves, because to be lazy on that issue results in what you get. All right, I'm here trying to make you aware of you're being called back home. Answer the telephone. Right? Answer the telephone. I am the vacuum, the transmission medium, so that you can be caught up with me when that time clock runs out. Because it said, time never was when man was not. As a life of time when man began, there was a time when man will be no more. Man, according to matter, has a time when it will be no more. Y'all better understand. Modern physics, antimatter is defined as matter composed of antiparticles or partners of a corresponding particles in ordinary matter, and can be thought of as matter with reverse charge parity in time known as CPT reversal. Antimatter occurs in natural processes like cosmic ray collision and some type of radioactive decay, i.e., are burning, to incinerate, all right, to shine. But only a tiny fraction of these have successfully been bound together to experiments to form anti-atoms. You hear that? Minuscule numbers of antiparticles can be generated at particles acceleration, i.e. CERN. All right, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to create antimatter. All right. Particle acceleration. However, total artificial production has been only a few nanograms. No microscopic amount of antimatter has ever been assimilated due to the extreme cost difficulty of production and handling. Everybody see that? A collision between any particle and antiparticle partner leads to this mutual annihilation, i.e. incineration, i.e. destruction, i.e. collapse, all right? Giving rise to various proportions of intense photon gamma ray neutrinos, that's i.e. the Big Bang, all right? And sometimes less massive particles, antiparticle pairs. The majority of the total energy of the annihilation emerges in the form of ionizing radiation, i.e. ionizing. It surrounds matter. If surrounding matter is present, the energy content of this radiation will be absorbed and converted into other forms of energy, such as heat or light. That's what gives us this luminance, that illumination, that light, that glow. All right. The amount of energy released is usually proportional to the total mass of the collided matter and the antimatter and associated with the notable mass energy equivalent, i.e., E equals mc squared. All right, E equals mc squared. Electromagnetism. Okay. In physics, electromagnetism is the interaction that occurs between particles and electric charge via electromagnetic field. The electromagnetic force of one of four fundamental forces of nature. It is dominant force in the interaction of atoms and molecules. Electromagnetism can be thought of as a combination of electrostatic and magnetism, two distinct but closely intertwined phenomena. So electrostatic and magnetism. What is magnetism? Magnetism, let me show you see this. Magnetism is the class of physical attribute that occurs through a magnetic field, i.e. force field, which allows objects to attract or repel each other. Because both electric currents and magnetic moments of electric elementary particles give rise to a magnetic field, magnetism is one of the two aspects of electromagnetism. So through electromagnetism, you are able to create an electric force field or a magnetic field that makes way to gravity, because when you magnetize something, it can go two ways. You can, like I said, you can repel or attract. All right, i.e., the light that comes from the energy, i.e., electromagnetic energy, which can come from what we call ether, i.e., luminiferous ether. Let's go back there. Luminiferous ether or ether. Luminiferous meaning light bearing, all right, was the postulated medium for the propagation of light. All right, we know the medium or transmission medium is the ability to distribute signals and waves. All right, when you see signals, waves that are signals that you upload. All right, just the light that you receive. And by uploading that light or through memory, it starts to download, and that causes a transformation. Right? What happens when you set a plant in a light? It starts to change. It starts to change. Right? It's made of melanin. It has melanin. All right? It has melanin. It tells the DNA to wake up. Luminiferous ether or ether, luminiferous meaning light bearing, was the postulated medium for the propagation of light. And we see light, right? Humans see light. It was invoked by explaining the ability to apparently wave-based light to propagate through empty space and vacuum, something that waves should not be able to do. We know vacuum means the absence of body, i.e. energy equals matter constant speed of light, 0-point energy, i.e. energy matter equivalence. Now, why do I say that? Fourth dimension. Okay, here we go. Higher dimensional spaces greater than 3 have since become one of the foundations for formally expressing modern mathematics and physics. Large parts of these topics could not exist in its current form without use of such spaces. Einstein's theory of relativity is formulated in 4D space. Although not in a Euclidean 4D space, Einstein's concept of space-time has minuscule Minkowski structure based on a non-Euclidean geometry with 3 spatial dimensions and 1 temporal dimension, rather than 4 symmetric spatial dimensions of Sciglioc's Euclidean 4-dimensional space. Single location in Euclidean's 4-dimensional space can be given as vectors of n-tuplets, i.e. as ordered listed of the number of such as x, y, z, y. X marks the spot. It is only when such locations are linked together into more complicated shapes that the full richness and geometric complexity of higher dimension space emerge. A hint of this complexity can be seen in the accompanying 2-dimensional animator of one of the simplest possible regular 4-dimensional objects, the tesseract, which is the analogous to 3-dimensional cube. Was it a tesseract? In geometry, a tesseract is the 4-dimensional analogous of a cube. The tesseract is to the cube as the cube is to the square. You hear that? Just as the surface of a cube consists of 6 square faces, the hypersurfaces of the tesseract consist of 8 cubical cells. The tesseract is one of the 6 convey regular 4 polytotypes. So this is transferring from 3-dimensional, because the cube represents 3-dimensional, and the movement of space and time transfers into what they call 4th-dimensional, which is we call the tesseract. All right. It's also synonymous with the tetrahedron, and tetrahedron is 3-dimensional. Moving to 4th-dimensional, as above, so below. All right. Where else I want to go? I want to go back there. What they said. Ether elements. Right here. According to medieval science, alternative spelling includes also known as a 5th element or quintessence. It's a material that fills the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere, also known as the luminiferous ether. All right, everyone should understand that. Quintessence in physics. Terminology. The name comes from quinta essentia, 5th element. the so-called in Latin starting from the Middle Ages. This was the first element by Aristotle to the other four ancient classical elements because he thought it was the essence of the celestial world. Did you hear that? Aristotle posited to be pure, fine, and primogenial elements. Later scholars identified the element with ether. Similarly, modern quintessence could be the fifth known dynamical, time-dependent, and spatial and homogeneous contributes to overall mass energy content of the universe. Did everybody hear that? All right, let me go ahead now. Bring this back home. What did I say? Give me 1 second. I'm looking for it. All right, let me show you this. This is where we are at. We should be going through the wormhole. But this, i.e. matter, cannot enter the wormhole because of the gravity of that matter as a result of the vacuum. And vacuum means void of matter. All right? There's also the same thing as this. Same thing. All right? From dark matter, and as a result of moving to fourth dimensional, which is subject to time, distance, velocity, must move to fourth dimensional, right? From fourth dimensional. This is us and our ascension process. But that's based off memory of the ascension process and determines where you go based off that memory. Because memory was the starting point. This is why we moralize our ancestors. Remember God, and God will remember you. You forget God, and God will forget you. And forget means to not know, willingly or unknowingly. All right? So once again, this picture is the same as this picture. All right? On the ether elements, you have to shine. On the luminiferous ether, you have the ability to be able to shine and become your true self and your higher essence, to be born again in the cosmic egg, because the universe represents the cosmic egg. All right? That egg is about to crack, and you're about to come into a new life. You're already in the womb in darkness, right? But that light is still speaking to you because darkness cannot penetrate light. I mean, light cannot penetrate darkness. It can only curvature. It can curve. As we said on Einstein theory, general relativity theory. You got special relativity and general relativity theory that's created by Einstein, dealing with energy and matter subject to what we call gravity, i.e. the vacuum, which is void of space. So this is the ascension process that was told about in a book of Ezekiel, right? In the book of Ezekiel, talk about the cosmic will, the will within the will. All right. Melchizedek, all right, coming in the clouds, sitting at the right hand of the Father. All right, let's go there. So in closing, you're going to look at this from two ways: abstract and concrete. All right, abstract and concrete. All right. Talking about Judgment Day. We're going to go to the Christian interpretation. So all those who are Christian need to be understanding what they're talking about. They didn't hide it. Because this is who that charge is coming for. Those who are these people. And if you are these people in which the charge is coming from for, then you better know what I'm talking about. Because this is their perspective that we perceive as what we call mysticism, i.e. the macabre mysticism, the crystal city, New Jerusalem, coming out of the clouds. All right? Right? The cosmic age. All right? You can see here. The cosmic age. Right? You see man in the cosmic age. The same picture you see here. Same picture you see here. All right. If there's a man here, right, you can't see him in the egg if we look at it from a realistic, because the man is still in the womb. The child's still in the womb. He can't see it. But you see the transition from 0 point of energy to energy being built up and what we call matter, not antimatter, but matter, moving from three-dimensional until that egg crack and he comes subject to this plane of thing may manifest it. Now his original plane, i.e. the etheric plane, i.e. ether, all right, that's his original plane of existence. He lost that memory when he came into existence on this plane of thing made manifested, i.e. matter. All right. So you can't see it as a result of what you see, i.e. ultraviolet rays, i.e. which is light. But within that light, there's energy, there's information, there's waves, there's signals. To understanding where that waves and signals come from is your obligation that you must remember. All right. So going back to the cosmic egg, in regards to those who receive the inheritance as required by those who are part of what they call the noble family from the Christian perspective, because in the book of Ezekiel, as you see in chapter 1, they show you the depiction of Matthias Miriam in regards to his vision that was given in 1670 in regards to Jesus coming back, right? And when he's coming back, there's going to be a destruction, all right, for all those who suck. And there's going to be a first and a second death. So if you were taking the first death, you better know what I'm talking about. Because 4:17 says it's going to happen like that. You ain't even going to know. You'll be like, what's going on? Like that. Versus feeling the pain caused by that which implements death. All right? Which can be time consuming. Who want to be in pain and experience the time of that pain throughout its duration? I don't want to. Surely I don't. I'm pretty sure you don't. So if you don't, you better get the truest concrete interpretation of that which you so-called say you follow. So move from the abstract that's in the Bible, which was written on based off Christianity, as you can see, as told in mysticism form, a metaphor, and bring it to the concrete. About that, that what they call that cosmic womb, which you see Jesus sitting there. Right here. As you can see, the cosmic gate, you see behind the stars, right? You see stars. This is Christianity's belief. Christianity's belief, according to concrete, started in the Middle Ages. You see the person identifying in the image of Christ, sitting in that position of Christ as a result of the obligation of that seat. Remember, people change, but positions don't. All right? People change, but positions don't. So the same requirement for positions then is the same requirement for the position now. All right? And we see that position here, going back to abstract story, we see it in the concrete story, going back to New Minister's Charter. As you can see, the cosmic gate. You see it right there. The best personage of that which represents the birth of righteousness within the cosmic age of the ego of what we call the crystal city, God's city, or God's house. You know what I'm saying? Because we know, according to the elves theory, you know what I'm saying, and the commercial, that they call us or descended from fudge. We know fudge name comes from English, which denotes the folk car, which denotes the folk. So they're telling who you descended down. These are our kinfolks, not in the abstract, but in the concrete, as I'm showing you. All right. As you can see, the new minister charter is King Edgar, standing between St. Peter, which Jesus said he'll build his church on. And that church is going to be by way of immaculate conception, right? Based off the uploading of the memory of our ancestors that were being passed on based upon what that seat represented. All right. As you can see, purpose. As you can see, the purpose of this event is symbolic of Jesus sitting on the right hand of his Father as the Melchizedek, or King Solomon, all right, dealing with the birthright of inheritance. And you see him in the cosmic room with the peace sign, with a book in his hand, right? With a book in his hand, all right? And you see King Edgar holding up a charter. The charter, which he's holding up in reference to this image of Christ, represents the incorporation or the personification or the incarnation of that word becoming flesh, which dwell amongst men. Said in the beginning was the word was God, and the word became flesh and dwell amongst men. John 1:14. All right, y'all must understand what's going on. And as a result of that, that represents this is in closing. In closing, this is the reason why the lesson was done. Because if you're claiming to be the immortals, right? If you're claiming to be the immortals, if you're immortals, then you must understand the history before you became mortal. If you understand history before you became mortal, that means that that information that you know should be based off the information that's told by the geologists in regards to what sustains you here on Earth as a mortal. You should be concerned about that which sustains you on the plane that exists before the Earth was even created, i.e. had that nothing. The only elements that existed before that nothing was the life force information, i.e. the light-bearing information, which is based off, as we said, ether. And we know that we are ether. Time never was when man was not. We know time is an arbitrary time, which we're subject on this plane, but we always exist in our true form because time never was when man was not. As the life of time when man began will come when he will be no more. All right. And as we can see here, all those who understand that information, not by you going to school or you sitting in school or you being taught by somebody in school, because you're in school every day. Every day is schooling for you as being an infant and a child of God. And based off the recording, i.e. the record, based off the light information you receive that wakes up the DNA, which creates a lighter frequency. So it ain't about how big you are, about how tall you is, about how cute you are, about how ugly you is. It's about that density. The knowledge creates this density. All those who think they're highly intelligent or know a lot, you don't know nothing if you don't know the cellular lineage where you come from. And the cellular lineage come from that which was in your cell. And the cell comes from that which gives the ability to be able to telecommunicate back to those which was a medium for you to receive the information to be who you are today. Who you are today with the ability to understand who you were before then. All right? Which was that state before nothing was created to put you here to experience that state of matter which came from nothing. Because from where you come, you shall return. All right? And if you return, that means that your name should be written right here in this book of life that's open. All right? And we know when under the New Minister's Charter, when King Edgar took the place of the image of Christ, that book was shut. And I represent King Edgar the Peaceful. So I'm not going, I don't need to go and take names and write names down. The name is already recorded because all minds think alike. You don't see another creation of God's creation acting outside of his nature. A dog gonna be a dog, a cat gonna be a cat, a lion gonna be a lion, a mouse gonna be a mouse, an alligator gonna be an alligator. What are you going to be? That's the question. What are you going to be? So thank yourself for being in this cosmic egg. I just thought about, just showed you. Right? This is where you are, all my subjects, or all my people, my kindred, this is where you are right now. Right? But even in that cosmic shell, right? Even in that cosmic shell, it said when Jesus rose, the tomb cracked, right? There was thunder when he ascended. All right, so in order for you to break this shell, you must grow in the energy that allowed you to have the strength to break this shell. And when you get the strength to break the shell from the state of darkness to light, then you'll wind up right here. This is where you'll be. This is where you return to your etheric parents. Why? Because you represent the transition from three-dimensional to fourth-dimensional. The only way you can get to fourth-dimensional is to have that fifth element, right? To have that fifth element, and we know that that fifth element is what we call luminiferous ether, all right? I love you all, and you really need to think about what has been said to you. Because like I said, I had a mental image of me rising without a body. And all I heard was that loud voice said, all right, time to judge. And all I seen was my family, my physical family, my mortal family. And all I heard from thee was, depart from thee, I know thee not. You know, so we all have to live by faith based off belief. But we must bear that fruit based off our faith and our belief. But a tree can grow in the soil, not suitable for its growth. And the seed that's planted in the dirt must be able to grow. You must receive that light. You know, the only thing that can give that light is water to a seed, because light makes the transmission medium perfect, because we know that water goes from solid, liquid, gas to ether. So from ether you begin, from ether you return. With that, I say peace.